Hey, how's it going? So I have a card, but I asked it's a, hold on, it's one of these cards. Oops. Knocked over my light. So, yeah, it's this deck. Declarations of Mary Magdalene. And I had just written a piece. Well, actually, what happened was you may have noticed I didn't do videos for a couple of days, where normally I would have done at least one between now and the last one. And I didn't because I don't really know. It just wasn't happening. So I didn't do it. Like, I didn't feel like I had myself prepared to do it. And as far as the writing goes, which for me is a part of it, because I'll do that before I do any of this to unlock what I've been thinking about, or whatever has come to mind. So what came to mind, I think day before yesterday now, just because it's morning of a new day right now. So day before yesterday, I just heard. I didn't really hear it. I didn't hear someone call "Fear not," but "Fear not" came to mind, and it kept coming up, and it was like I would hear someone in a show I'd be watching say those two words together, or it could just even be two separate people saying, one going "fear" and the other one going "not," and they just happen to coincide in a way that I could hear it. It wasn't necessarily a crucial part of the show. It's just the way the cookie crumbled. It was so weird. So I was like, okay, well, maybe that's something. And I wrote a little bit. First I just wrote down the two words, and then a little something started trickling out, and then I had to stop for whatever reason. My caregiver had arrived, so we had to go out and do what I needed to do while he was still here with the car to drive me. And but when I came back, and after I had my nap, because now I can't do anything without a nap anymore, the first time I went out after I had COVID, we went to one place out of 5 that I needed to go to over the 3 days that he would be here. And I was able to do one stop. One, go into the store, turn around and get in the car, and I was like, I have to go home and take a nap. I was just exhausted. It's crazy. I feel like I'm more tired. Well, no, that's not true. I was going to say I almost feel more tired than I did when I was sick, but when I was sick, I wouldn't even call it sleep. I was just unconscious. Anyway, "Fear not" was in my head, and so I have an association with that. You may have the same association. It appears in the Bible, and it is said by angels, and typically it is in the times when they are face to face with a human. So they have an effect on us, which this story, when you hear it at any juncture in the book, I don't know if it's because it's modern times now, but the reaction of the people that see the angels, is quite strange. I don't know. I don't know that people would prostrate themselves because somebody came in. It is a very elevated level of somebody, and by elevated I mean they emit a vibe so strong that it according to the book, it has a serious effect on people. Like, makes them start breaking down in tears and, legs coming out from under them. So, maybe, I don't know. I mean, well, here's what I know about that kind of thing. Every once in a while, I'll feel very close to spirit or something from the angelic realm, or because I'll start to cry, and this happens when it happens like a breeze blowing by. It's like I'm not thinking about anything like that. Certainly nothing to be crying about. And then the other thing is my eyes and my nose are going, and then like my breath is like doing the hitching thing, like if you were crying. Except there's no, like, the emotion that I was feeling before I was suddenly crying was not sad or anything near tear-inducing. So it was, it was very strange the first time I noticed it, but I did notice that it would happen when I was, like, I watch a powwow, and that makes my body cry. I'm not crying. I'm not, like, I see natives, or I see indigenous people, or I hate all of the names. Anyway, I see the people doing the traditional dances and the drums being played and the ceremonial garb, and everyone done up to the nines and looking beautiful, and I'm just all tears streaming down my face, nose running, and I'm just like, what is going on? It's something, but you know what it wasn't? It wasn't me looking at them going, this reminds me of all of the many of them that are not here today, and the circumstances of how that happened that were bad and treacherous, and, like, that is not what I'm thinking when I'm looking at that, and that is not the vibe. Like, maybe if they were doing ghost dance, but that's like an emergency situation, and not everybody agrees that you should do it, and like I'm saying, that's just not the vibe at these things. So there's just no reason that you could be all, it's happening because of this, or at least I haven't come across it yet. I keep talking about it, hoping that somebody will say something that will inform me. Anyway, so the fear thing, I just have been thinking about how much I hear people saying, it's so scary, talking about, like, news people, anchors and what have you, talking about, like, the world and, the things happening, like, wars and like, ICE is, like, at war out on the public. I don't know, like, what, who are you people? What is going on? There's no reason to be so aggressively pushy, like literally throwing people to the ground and just kind of being dicks. Like, there's no reason why, like, you're already the authority. You already have all of that. You don't need to, like, double down on the copness and beat people and berate them, and you guys are the ones horning in on, like, completely erroneous legal legs to take people that don't need to be taken. So, and you're hiding your faces, and you don't have insignia, you don't have badges, and it's just like, who the hell are you? You could be anyone. But they think, masking themselves the way they have been. Although I did see some, like, Darth Vader helmet-looking things today. They're up in their game. Or maybe those were just regular, like, local police. I don't know, but somebody was somewhere back east quelling people, like, in their yards and shit. Like, not, you don't need to quell someone enjoying, the last day of the weekend on their porch with their neighbors, and they're having a beer, and whatever, maybe they're getting loud, but it's like, it's their neighborhood, like, they're all participating in it. You're the ones that are coming in and making trouble and intimidating people, and, well, I don't understand what the roughness is all about, but I don't know that those particular people on the ground are out there with the intent to sow fear, unless that's what they've been instructed to do, although it sure seems like this is coming naturally to these guys, as if it's something they would just be doing anyway, except now they have a license too, although it's one of those invisible licenses they got from the back of a comic book or something. I don't know. It's very strange. So, people on the news will be talking about that. The anchors of the guy on the street or on location, whatever's happening, they're fearful, of course, and then the snatching people off the street. But I just saw on a social media site an article about how in Chicago, I think, they brought in a Black Hawk helicopter. So a black helicopter, like the total paranoid, scary thing. And, because, like in Goodfellas, I can't remember the character's name. John something, I think, but, at one point, he's, like, very whacked up on the sniffy, the cocaine. And so he knows that his perceptions are not reliably correct, but he's very paranoid, reasonably so. And so he's driving in this car, and he keeps seeing black helicopters, which is unusual. Usually in your just regular city, the helicopters are not black. That has a meaning, and it's like a war thing, and it's to induce fear. So a Black Hawk helicopter flew in to the city, to the inner city where the black people were living, and I guess the helicopter landed on top of an apartment building, and agents rappelled down out of the elevator, or sorry, not elevator, helicopter. Or I guess it didn't set down because it said they rappelled out of the helicopter, and I was like, well, what is this? Mission Impossible 36? What are you people doing? And then we're infected with it, like the public here in the United States. I don't know what's going on in other places in the world, but when I look, some of them sound like here, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse, but very similar. So these guys are like getting together and they're all, let's make a shithole country club. Anyway, that also induces fear in the population, and what is that good for? Nothing, if you're just like in the population with a bunch of people already stressed out and already afraid about a million things, because that's baked into our lives. Like to be victim-y and always ready, like what's the next thing coming to get me, when it doesn't happen that often that we have to be so hyper vigilant. But like I said, it's manufactured situations we're dealing with here to induce fear and to weaken our minds and whatever else, they've had a long time. Our I'm going to say spook agencies have had plenty of time to study the work of other countries, similar type groups, and their activities, and which makes our country feel like, we have to like at least match that, or we'll at least match it. That's not what Americans would say or would have said. Hopefully we're past all that, but they would have said, we're the greatest country in the world. We build great, like, just that's a head blowing, like growing in size, not exploding. So, yeah. But why do it? Well, mainly to control the population, to mute our ambition to like improve our circumstances, to become enough of a pain to cause those in power that sort of hold those things over our heads, like jobs and, you know, other economic, financial type things that you're just average person, you know. You got enough. You may want more for yourself out of life, but for many people, it's like the job and everything you have to do in your life is like, how much more can I pile on, and do I even want more? And I'm just going on like a feeling here, but I feel like that's how people are feeling. Some people, not everyone. And we are, like, grow up being told what to be fearful of, what is scary, and then scary things happen, and you know, everybody has a reaction to it, and some things we just hold on to for so long, and I don't know, like, I for one am like, okay, it's tragic and it's horrible, and like maybe it was a blow that stuns me and the country or whatever for like a few days or a few weeks. I don't even know. I'm not specifying what type of tragedy, because I don't have one in mind. Just whatever it is that strikes all of us and gets a lot of people jumping on the thoughts and prayers bandwagon. But you know, when I say that, I mean, and I think most people also mean sarcastically, that when someone is saying thoughts and prayers to like yet another active shooter situation somewhere, you stop believing that the people mean it, especially when the people that are supposed to be the ones writing up legislature to make whatever is making this stuff happen less likely to happen, you know? And it's frustrating. I get it, because I also look at certain people that they just sound trite and like completely insincere. So the problem with that is that when people are sincerely thinking about someone that's gone and praying for the family and their safe passage from this plane to the next, like whatever it is, the more of us that are doing it, the more of a collective energy is gonna generate. So if like the same group of people were grieving over the loss of life in one of the war zones that are active right now, I'm not gonna choose one because I feel like online there's a bit of which one is more important than the other, and the answer is neither. Like, death is just a no wherever it's happening, in my opinion. And I know that's not gonna on its own change a dang thing, but like I was just saying, if enough of us start feeling the same way about something and we want more of it, like a like a McRib, or less of it, like a 9/11, then we're gonna come together and make whatever that thing is happen. But the problem is that we usually have to be driven to extremes for that to happen, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think it's something that can't, you know, be learned. So I'm gonna link my piece that I wrote. I'm not gonna make you endure me reading it. So I'm going to move on to the card now. And it's the number 28. And I don't know if I said this before, but like I've been reading the numbers, but when I first used these, I used like number 44, I thought. And I was like, oh, okay, because it's a smaller, thinner deck. I know it's less than like 78. Like, I feel like a deck with 78 cards is thicker than what this one is. And it's an Oracle deck too, so I'm assuming it's like a numerology is what has them there, but I'm looking at them as like the number of cards in the deck, which they could also be. And I cannot find anywhere on the packaging how many cards there are in the deck. An Oracle deck, channeled by, title, name of the deck. No number of cards. I wouldn't be there. I'm doing pretty good on time, is why I'm boring you with this. Okay, I know it's that part. There's a booklet. They're very slippery because they're so new. Usually when you get these guidebooks, it says, this blah blah number card deck does blah blah blah, you know, like whatever they're talking about. You can tell I've read so many of them. I can quote them directly. Blah blah blah. Okay, these tablets. I love how Mary calls them tablets, because the woman that made these cards channeled Mary Magdalene, and each saying on it is something that Mary like reached out and said, here, this, and she told her to put them on cards, so she calls them tablets, Mary. So yeah. Tablets and scrolls. Okay, still looking for the number of cards in this deck. And not there. Oh. Introduction. Oh, well, she doesn't say it here. This is, I'm looking at right now, the experience of when she was channeling the information on the cards. Oh, okay, here's numbers. And it says what's on the cards. Well, don't go toward one dingbat. Go toward the end, so you can see how many numbers there end up being. 50. So, there. Now you know why I always mention the numbers. Let me quickly put this away, and then I will actually read what's on the card. Hey, what a concept. Please don't squirt out of my hand. Oh, sorry, a little dead air. Alright, I got it. I got it in the box. Okay, so this tablet reads, it is thy that are the keepers of the divine knowledge that becomes hidden when one chooses to flee from thy sacred heart. So, this was a good pick. Because what she's talking about is like losing yourself from your sacred heart, which would be like your moral center and your physical center, like in your torso. And anyway, It is divine, or sorry, whoa, what am I saying? It is thy that are the keepers of the divine knowledge that becomes hidden when one chooses to flee from thy sacred heart. So if you're fleeing from your sacred heart and it obscures your divine knowledge, which is like right and proper, then, maybe you have fallen into and submerged yourself in fear of, and you're like deeply in a place, like another dimension actually, of like behavior, of the way that you would act, being differently from the way you would around people that have known you all your life, or like your mother or your longtime friend. Like, you may go out in the world with these strangers and act like a completely different person that nobody knows. But I made like that a metaphor because it's not about a person going out or wherever. Like, it's more about getting afraid in the many ways that you can be scared, and not being able to free yourself from the fear because you can't get back to your, like, it's obscured, it's hidden from your view, it's hidden from your sight because you've blurred your own view by giving into fear and not having faith and trust in the idea that, like, spirit is going to catch you when you're falling. Like, even if you fall and break, if you're still around, you're still around for, like, the experience of getting knitted back together and treated in the hospital and doing the hard work of laying there and healing and, renewing yourself so you can get up and go do stuff again. But often it's an experience like that that triggers or activates things in you that require a stressful or emergency type situation where emotions are high and you're stressed, and you will be pushed, like, even in the situation where you're not trying to attain anything at all, you're just there when some kind of stuff goes down and somebody's choking and you happen to be the person there that knows how to do the Heimlich maneuver. What am I talking about? How did I get there? Oh no, I lost. Hold on, let me search my brain. Oh, well, I was definitely talking about fear. Well, it's just baked into everything, like Catholic school or just Catholicism, to control you, and they tell you stuff designed to scare you straight, to make you behave. And it may not even be true. It's like a full-on manipulation tactic. They'll pull at the heartstrings and, it's a whole thing, being a Catholic. An observant one. Not that I am. Not anymore. And I was, to the extent that I was, it was like odd weekends, and usually not from my house. Like, usually it would be like the weekend spent over at my cousin's house, and they actually were enrolled in Catholic school. Like, one of them actually went to Catholic University, so maybe both of them did. I kind of lost track of one of them because I stopped giving a shit. And, well, I didn't live in California anymore, which is where I'm from. And, yeah. College, what am I talking about that for? I don't remember, but I do remember that I was talking about fear, and it is everywhere. Like, and a lot of times the fears are kind of valid, but here's the thing. When you are in the world and you acknowledge that this stuff is there, and the potential for harm is always there for all of us from many potential sources. Like, it could happen anyway. Just don't think about it. Don't worry about it. But, giving into fear, like, just letting yourself go and becoming part of the horror story, that's how you have lost yourself. That's when you have lost yourself. And maybe it wasn't a fleeing situation to... I'm almost feeling like it's something like a teenager would do. Like, say they're going to do something that they don't even mean. They just want you to go, oh no, don't do that. And then, like, you don't say, oh no, don't do that. And then they're forced to run away from home and, like, go to a friend's house or run away to the garage and open the camping equipment and spend the night, like, run away. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't really mean it. Because if they really did, that'd be really scary. There's just so many things in life to be fearful of. Like, got traffic, going to the hospital, getting in an elevator, getting on an escalator, the window, like, not holding your weight when you lean on it to open it or close it because crap and junk construction, because corners cut in that industry, and they're fearless because they did the thing and they're gone, and the people doing the work are not even really the responsible ones unless they club somebody with a wrench or something. They're just the worker bees. And so, but you got to be fearful that you'll lose your job, and then it'll create a cascade of you lost your job problems because of lost your income problems. And oh my goodness, I don't need to elaborate. I think we all can extrapolate on the kinds of problems that can arise from that. But that gives us yet another thing to be like, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm gonna, like, lose the house. Like, we gotta rephrase. So I'm just gonna kind of shift to talking about this another way. Along with what I was saying about, like, people sort of being, like, on the same team or on the same page about something and forming a group situation, like informal, like online group where you're not even meeting in person or whatever. But, however you decide that you're gonna group with people, I guess it doesn't matter, like, the logistics of it. But the point is if you're all, like, for instance, meditating on, I don't know, like, somebody's kid has a surgery and everyone is directing and their concentrated thoughts and prayers at, the most beneficial outcome for this child, of whoever's in the group or not in the group. It could be a stranger or just a situation in the world. Like, hey, pick a war, any war, It's all kind of needed. In fact, sometimes it's infuriating when you'll see, like, somebody. Here's the setup. You see, like, a lefty on like a Trump rally, so a right wing place, and why did I start talking about that? It just fled. So it just took off. I think it just had to do with, like, the incongruous nature of someone on the left being at one of those things and questioning people, and then those people realizing, like, what they thought they knew is not right, but that's embarrassing, so they can't own up to it. My God, that'd be ridiculous. But what they can do is get mad at the lefty interviewer that's basically there needling people anyway, and, you know, like, lash out at them verbally. I haven't seen anything physical happen. And those guys are masters at staying calm and at the same time infuriating the person they're talking to, because they're like just nailing all of those soft spots that are going to piss off someone like that. It's just kind of amusing to watch. But here's the thing. So if you can group up with a bunch of people and collectively meditate on something and improve that something, that situation, then we could also just be doing it to undo things that are like the wars, for example, and, you know, people in governments taking so much money and stealing so much. Not that they should do it like a little bit. Like, they probably should like take their salary, and if they want money, more money, then go do a side hustle, but don't steal taxpayer money. Just a scenario, you know. But any like halt in your income for whatever reason, especially if you don't have like leeway and wiggle room, you're gonna have a problem before too long, because especially if it's like a healthcare incident, those hit hard. If you have to take an ambulance, like, that's gonna cost you big time, buddy. And that's not news. That's been for a while. So you also have a fear of like having a health problem or an emergency health problem. Like it's like the whole world is in some way like a dangerous animal, you know, to be avoided at all costs, because a little bit of whatever it can bite into you with, could like really ruin you, like paralyze you and never unparalyze you. But so, you know, I don't hear like any prayer-a-thons for, you know, putting damage back together. And it doesn't have to be like any one entity that is concerned with and also doing that. There's room for everybody. The world is big. There's a lot of stuff that we can improve upon. So, there's a lot to be fearful of right now. Like, I totally get that. But the thing is at some point, you know, here comes that collective agreement thing. Like, impromptu, like, there was no meeting, there was no memo sent out, like, this is what we're gonna do. It's just like, sometimes things are bad enough for so long that people get tired of it. They're like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to live this way. I don't want to hear about this stuff. I don't want these things to be happening. I want something different. And then, you know, say that person mentions it to their friend, and then their friend tells it to their friend that happened. And it makes those other people go, well, dang, I'm going to do my version. I'm going to go do my version of whatever he or she did that inspired me, and go, like, have an effect on things my own way, and that's great. We, especially at this time when there's so much going on, that people need help with, and we have, like, people in hurricane country. I believe right now is just the beginning of hurricane season, and those people have to live there and know full well that should their home get damaged and something happen to them, there will be no FEMA help or money coming because it was done away with. So if you live in those places, I would imagine that gives you a fright, knowing that your house could be flattened. Your people could be gone for good, and it could just be not a good situation. And so the knowledge of that, you live in there every day, that amounts to fear. And not that it was like great. You live in hurricane country, you know that you're not always going to be hit. Same as where I've always lived, which is the west coast of the United States, earthquake country. I've been in 2 states along here for earthquakes. There's one in the middle that I just haven't spent much time in, but I'm sure they happen there too. It's the area where you can expect that sort of thing. And you don't move because sometime there's going to be an earthquake, but every year a tornado's going to come, so that's a special kind of human being that is not me, because I am afraid enough of those that I'm not going to go put myself in the path of them. Earthquakes don't happen that often, and I mean, if you're unfortunate enough to be at the epicenter of a big one, I'm sorry, but most of the time, they're so infrequent, and I feel like for me, the odds of my being at the location of one are very low. Although, generally, like a general area thing, well, not being at the epicenter is wishful thinking. I don't think there's much I could do to affect that. So, back to what I was saying though about collectively getting together to end things and to protest things. We collectively start changing our minds, and then that changes our behavior. And the thing about us is, it's not really our business to tell people how to live and how to awaken and all of these other things. The main benefit that someone that's in, oh God, I'm losing track, and I'm also I think I'm sliding off to sleep land while I'm awake. To sum up, when you get afraid, you kind of lose your center. You lose touch with your sacred heart. But, we don't have to stay in that mindset. So, I don't want to, I don't want people to be, taken over by fear. I want them to understand that they have control in the situation. And also, after, lifetimes of living in fear and cellular memory of previous lifetimes lived in fear because of earthquakes or raiders or whatever the thing is that is threatening that you don't want to experience. We know that collective meditation has been scientifically recorded, so there's empirical evidence. It doesn't just suggest, it proves that when people get together and direct their thoughts and prayers and meditate on a particular object in unison, that amplifies the effect, and so it has a visible, noticeable effect. And that is a validating factor for this type of thing. So, when enough of us are like, okay, I'm like done with being afraid. I am sick of it. I don't want to do it anymore. As hard as that is for people to believe, and it took me a while to get there myself, but nah, I don't remember. Gosh darn it. I just wanted to say one little final thing. Come on, brain, work with me. Oh, well, if enough of us get together and it doesn't even have to be a formal thing, like, it's the rally for meditating against fascism, which is a great idea, actually. But, but nothing. Like, that's it. That is how you can dispel fear, is you change your mind and you change your behavior, but you know how they say you can't change other people, and maybe they're not, like, spiritually ready to be making the same changes as you? That's okay. What matters, I think, is that we become comfortable with the idea of just eschewing any of this fear stuff and the effects of it, and like just not buying into the things anymore, you know, and not just going along with it because everybody else is doing it or the law frowns on it. I mean, I'm not saying become a criminal and habitual career criminal, but there is, like, protest can be done legally. It's under the legality of it is under attack, but that doesn't mean it's gonna be the case forever, and there's gonna be opposition to that. So the point is like, we focus a lot of energy on the things that scare us, and maybe if we don't want to have all of that, we should focus on the things that we do want, that are better for, like, everyone, and lighter and happier and more transparent, so that, you know, corruption can be immediately exposed. That is something that we can all do. It is something that probably most of us want, and you know, having the world just be wrapped with people that are wrapped in fear. It's like our poor planet goes through a lot. We put it through a lot. Like, we could help, and it would be so, I think the planet would be so grateful if we were more inclined to stop blowing up bombs on her skin and having nasty runoff in the soil and the water. Like, she doesn't. We're abusing the privilege of being here. We're like terrible guests. And I don't know. Maybe the more people share those type of ideas with one another, well, no maybe about it. Like, that is how change is gonna happen. Like, you know, one of the many ways, but whenever one of us is doing something and we look good and we look like we feel good and we sound good, the rest of us naturally want to know, what have you got that I don't have, and where do I get it? Like, spill, what's your secret? You know that's a thing. Or, you know, they'll walk up and they know something's up with you, like, you're happy, you're confident, or whatever, and you'll get variations of, oh, you got some last night, or something like that, or, you know, just insinuations because you're smiling and you're in a good mood. And most lung cancers, like, that's their range. Payday, Team 1, kid born. And then nothing wrong with those highlights, nothing wrong in the world. They're just not the type I have sought. And that's okay. But we can step right out of fear if we decide to. And if we see each other doing it, we love to go viral with everything. I think I made my point. I hope I did. Anyway, thank you and good night.